A Giants podcast for Giants fans
By Giants fans.
from the offseason through the wins and the losses. It's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome on into One Giant Step, One Giant Week 9 Preview Pod. Can you say Preview Pod? I could say Preview Pod. Download, subscribe to One Giant Step everywhere podcasts are available. I mean, Bryce Gelman is such a hot commodity. He's being asked to be a guest other ways on other pods off of this. I mean, just tremendous stuff coming Bryce Gelman's way. I'm Shaun Morash. He's Bryce Gelman. We have a new segment at the midway point of the year we're going to debut later on called Bryce Is Right. Bryce.
You gave it away. I wanted to leave it
hold
up
on.
to the imagination.
Nobody knows what it means yet.
Fair.
Nobody knows what it means.
Fair.
Bryce,
Jump the gun.
Trust the trusted radio veteran on the show here to navigate through here. I mean, geez. Come back to us. Jump the gun. All right. It's a Giants 49ers week here. Very special. It is maybe my only time, but my first game at MetLife Stadium this year, maybe the only one. I was at the week 1 game down in Washington. It's my first Jackson Dart game. Bryce, you went to the Chief game. Did you go to another game?
No, I went to the Charger game. I have not.
Why did I think you were at the Chief game? I am so lost with you, buddy.
Yeah,
all right. So you were at One Giant Step. We're 1-0 a Giant. Oh no, we're 1-0 at Giant home games this year.
Yes,
we're 1-1 overall.
And that was, of course, Jackson Dart's first start in the NFL.
Exactly. Jackson Dart. He is undefeated at home, correct? 2-0? 2-0?
I believe so.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So we'll see if the good times continue to roll. Injuries still abound for the New York Giants. At the time we're recording this, we don't have a clear picture, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The big story of the week, though, that's emerged in Giant land, Dexter Lawrence v. Carl Banks. Carl Banks of WFAN Giants play-by-play color commentary lore. Really on his podcast, I believe in Giants podcast, took a run at Dexter Lawrence in a clip that went viral. I give Carl credit because Carl, to his credit, I guess really mixes it up on social media, really clashes with fans, has no problem basically telling fans off. Which
he's like the Kevin Durant of the Giants.
Yeah, which is fascinating because he's older, right? Usually that's like a younger man's thing. He's older. Which I find crazy. By the way, I'm just going to acknowledge if you hear buzzing right now.
What the hell was that?
So where I have my little home studio here, to like the northeast corner of where I am is a laundry room. The laundry room has the doors open. I am fresh off taking a train home. I work for WFAN in the afternoon. I've come downstairs, wolfed down some dinner, sat down, popped up the equipment here to record Bryce. I had no idea laundry was going off. So that's the dryer ending there. That's
nice.
Exactly what's going on.
Nice.
So I apologize to those at home, but just shows you, regular Joe, Mr. Shaun Morash here, huh?
High level of production here.
High level production.
Yeah.
I'd rather you be transparent than listening to this wherever you get your podcast going. What the hell's buzzing in the back of this fat ass's house? That's exactly what happened. So Carl Banks mixes it up with fans, regular Kevin Durant, shocking because he's an older guy, right? I mean, no offense to Carl, but older guys usually don't mix it up. Usually they're farming on Farmville on Facebook, but he mixes it up with fans all the time. And I think he tends to get a lot of grief. And I've had in my interactions with Carl, I think he's just a super nice guy. He really is. And my Giant fandom really exists post Carl Banks' playing career. I mean, his last year is 1991. And it's a comedy of errors, Bryce. It's a comedy of errors. I don't know how many times this buzzer has to go off. His last year of his career is 93. So I really get into football. Like my first full year watching sports is 94. I said to say 94 Rangers, Knicks. Like that was where I was like, oh, wow, sports are awesome. This is cool. And I didn't get to see Carl Banks play. So I don't view Carl Banks when I meet him as like, oh my God, this legendary Giant. I've just met him through work and he just seems like a normal, smart football guy. But I said this a long windup. He rarely is very critical of Giants. He's the kind of guy you think I find positives on this podcast. Man, Carl Banks, through some of these bad years, the last 10 years, finds a lot of positives. And a little background, I think inevitably in that famed Carl Banks, Sal Licata, Brandon Tierney kind of hang up where they were arguing over Kayvon Thibodeau, I think at its core, the real cause of that is two guys who I respect in BT and Sal, who I'm friends with, kind of viewed a spot where it's like, man, Carl, the team stinks. You're never going to say anything bad about this team. We're trying to give you something. We're down on Kayvon, even if you disagreed with it. And Carl just always found positives. And I don't know if Carl even realizes this. I think fans at times were turned off by Carl Banks doing that because they were frustrated. And when you work for a team and you're around a team and you're constantly saying positive stuff and the team is terrible, it could wear on a fan base. So that is where I think fans always argue with Carl Banks. So that's why I say when he criticized Dexter Lawrence on the podcast this week, Dexter Lawrence of all players, I mean, that's like the giant through the tough times that fans have fallen in love with. I think it really resonated. And I think people were almost, okay, well, yeah, I think Dexter Lawrence is not playing as well, but man, Carl, really? I mean, you kill fans all the time. Now you're going to take a shot at Dexter Lawrence. Where's your shots at Darius Slayton, whoever else? So this whole thing's been convoluted. So Dexter Lawrence met the media to answer this. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about on this podcast, on a Giants podcast, just Google. I don't have to rehash like what Carl Banks exactly said, but he brought up double teams and all of that. Dexter Lawrence met the media. Dexter Lawrence used words like, I think Carl Banks is delusional. He said, fuck it. We had to bleep that out on the fan. We don't have to do that here on the podcast when it came to what Carl had said. And he got a little testy even with Paul Schwartz about whether he was watching the tape on double teams and all of this. I just found the whole thing fascinating, Bryce. And I think we're missing the mark on the argument. I think that Carl Banks's comments in terms of other teams not respecting Dexter Lawrence, I think is wrong. I think the tape will show you are still respecting Dexter Lawrence with double teams. For instance, last year, Dexter Lawrence was double teamed on 74.8% of his snaps on the field. Yep. 69% of those snaps, or 69% of pass snaps. So if you want to know where the difference gets made up, obviously run plays would make that else up with the double teams. It's slightly less this year to this point, slightly less. However, while it's slightly less, Dexter Lawrence is not putting up the numbers. I mean, he was leading the league in sacks before he got hurt last year. He's just not dominating the way he has the last 2 years. So I think Carl's heart is in the right place. And a question that we've brought up on the podcast, Bryce, which is just, man, we want more out of Dexter Lawrence. He's not bringing it. And Dexter Lawrence got ultra sensitive about it. So I don't know where you stand. I'll ask you on this, Bryce. Are you team Carl, team Dexter, team somewhere in between?
Shaun, what year are we in that Carl Banks is criticizing a Giants player, and not just a Giants player, the best Giants player, at least going
Ring of Honor guy.
Season.
I mean, he'll be in that Ring of Honor with Carl.
At least going into this season, he was the number one guy in this team. I have to be honest. And you know, no one extolled the talent of Dexter Lawrence as much as I did. I went as far to say he's the most, I'm not anymore, but I said he was the most important defensive player in football. You could go back. I said it a multitude of times in this podcast. Shaun, he's been disappointing this year. Let's just call a spade a spade. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's not been great. Not to say that he hasn't been good, and he hasn't been drawing a shit ton of double teams. He still has. But when you look at the stats, Shaun, he has 7 solo tackles, only a half a sack, and 1 tackle for loss. And you just said it. And he got injured, I believe, in week 8 or 9, but through week 7, I don't think it was until he was injured. I think it was before, through week 7.
I thought he got hurt on. Am I nuts? I thought he got hurt on Thanksgiving versus the Cowboys.
Maybe, but that's like what? That's like week 10, week 11
12.
at that point. No. Dude. He was not. He was leading the league in sacks, I believe, through week 7 or week 8. At some point, the season went to shit, and he kind of gave up. But Dexter Lawrence was an absolute force to be reckoned with. We had never seen that. Like right at the time, it was unheard of that a defensive tackle could have that many sacks. And we were like, what the hell are we watching right here? And of course, he was flanked by Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau to both of his sides. This year now he has Abdul Carter, and he's got, Darius Alexander, who's working his way in. DJ Day. Listen, these aren't amazing names, but on the edges, it's top tier. So they're doubling him. They're leaving one-on-ones on the outside. Brian Burns is clearly taking advantage of that. I'm assuming he's second now in sacks because Myles Garrett had 5 last week. I haven't checked.
Tied.
Okay. So he's tied for first in the league. Clearly, that is because, at least partially because of what Dexter Lawrence provides in the middle. But Shaun, we have not seen that on the stat sheet. And we haven't seen it in the game because there's a lot of stuff, the Abdul Carter thing that I want to get into it a little bit, where it's not exactly showing up on the stat sheet. The impact from the naked eye, Dexter Lawrence, watching him game in and game out, is he doing a lot of damage? Is he getting to the quarterback? Well, is he shoving the center, into the pocket? Like, we haven't seen a lot of that. And I'm not here to discredit Dexter Lawrence. I'm not saying that what Carl Banks said was valid. I think it's partially valid, and hopefully it's going to light a fire under Dexter's ass. But there is some truth to the fact that Dexter Lawrence has not been as dominant as we've seen in the past. Not to say that he's gotten complacent, but something is ailing him. Something is going on in the locker room mentally. We don't know. Fact of the matter is, Shaun, he's not been as good this year as he has been in previous years.
Yeah, and I think that's I think the conundrum with Dexter Lawrence is if you watch any tape or whatever, Dexter Lawrence is playing good. He's playing good football for an interior lineman.
We were talking him as the best defensive tackle in football.
Well,
is he top 5 this year?
This is my point. Exactly. He hasn't been that. So it's one of those things. The drop-off has felt drastic, right? Like you're just not seeing Dexter Lawrence just wreck opponents up the middle. And for him to go, well, I'm still getting double teamed or what, to answer that. Okay, but why are you not dominating when we give those stats 75, 67, you're getting single team reps. You're not winning those, clearly. You're not dominating those. You had the one big interception versus the Chargers.
That's the one, dude, that's the one big impact play this season. That's the one play.
Yeah, and it just, I don't want to get mad at Dexter because I think we have a hard time, and I've noticed this a lot in New York sports, and I think Kayvon Thibodeau is actually victim to this, where we expect so much out of certain guys that even when they're playing good, but they're not playing dominant great, we tend to yell that they suck. I mean, I know he had a bad night. Depends when you listen to the other night, but Karl Anthony Towns doesn't suck.
Different.
Okay. Artemi Panarin for the Rangers doesn't suck, but when he doesn't have, the dominating, goal every night, we want to say that. The Yankees, Anthony Volpe does suck. I'm trying to even find a good example. There's probably not a
judge in the playoffs every year.
Right. Like he's fine and he's good. Other guys have to step up. He was great this year. This year. His stats actually tell you he's fine in the playoffs, but
Shaun,
whatever.
I'd argue this isn't just a New York thing. Like if you look at other cities, I use Detroit as an example because I kind of work in Detroit, even though I live in New York City. Look at Tarek Skubal. Let's say Skubal had 10 straight mediocre starts where he's giving up 2 to 3 runs.
Yeah.
Even the city of Detroit, the fans would be calling and flipping out. This isn't just exclusive to New York. This is everywhere when you're talking about the best players in the league.
And Dexter Lawrence graduated to that. No, but yes. And Dexter Lawrence graduated to that. So now this year, he's having a year where we're not getting the, oh my God, he's one of the top 5 players in football kind of years where it's noticeable and you wonder why, but he's still taking on those double teams, which is opening things up for Burns and Thibodeau. So look, what is wrong with him? He says the elbow is still not bothering him. Truth be told, my naked eye, even last week when he went to the bench and he's kind of like, breathing the air, I kind of think Dexter Lawrence, because of the elbow, remember all the load management he had in training camp, I don't think he had a regular season. And I think that for a guy that big, I think he was out of shape. And I think he's still trying to work his way up. And I think he's so behind the 8 ball on whatever he was doing in the offseason that he didn't get back to his dominant self. Now,
all right, but we're in week 8. We're this far into the season, 2 months into the season, figure it out.
I agree.
You're
agree.
one of the best in the sport.
That doesn't mean I want to run Dexter Lawrence out of here. And boy, we could talk about this with the trade deadline coming up next week. I know, thank God, the Giants have squashed the rumors on Kayvon Thibodeau who signed next year. Guys, I know that this year stinks, and I know we're going to do a million podcasts in the future about who should be the head coach and who should be the general manager. I really don't want to do this here, but I say that to say, when you're getting on Dexter Lawrence and you're getting on this guy and you're getting on that guy, the one thing I think we will all be in unison on after the season, whenever we fight it out about coaches and GMs and defensive coordinators, we are all collectively as a fan base going to look at this offseason with money to spend and want to hold on to good players and not have traded them away at the deadline, because we are going to think, because of Jackson Dart, the Giants with a lighter schedule can be a playoff team next year. So just breathe easy on what's going on right now with Dexter Lawrence. Let's not try to run him out of town.
And let me just clarify this. Neither of us are saying that we want to trade Dexter Lawrence. And if so,
no.
The Giants need at least 2 first-round picks to even entertain the conversation.
I'm just saying, when you start getting this build-up, you will start hearing frenzied stuff like that. And then you'll hear at the end of the year, oh, should we move on from a guy like that? Giants have enough holes. Stop trying to create other ones.
Yep.
I'm down on Dex. I don't think Banks was necessarily totally wrong. I think he was wrong in terms of teams respecting him. But nonetheless, it was spicy. It was juicy. Now, in terms of what I'm really down on, I can't shake it, Bryce. I got to be honest with you. I can't. This is one I can't shake. as the days have followed since Sunday. And I just want to kind of relive this football season. The Cowboy loss gutted me. I mean, if week 1 in Washington, only scoring 6 points, but feeling like you're in the game in the fourth quarter, I made that trip. It gutted me. The Chiefs, not having a kicker situation figured out, it gutted me. Oh, wow, we're starting Jackson Dart in week 4 versus the Chargers. Oh, wow, we won. Oh, no, Malik Neighbors gets hurt. It gutted me.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept getting back on the horse, right? We had won that game. Okay. Then we lose to the Saints, 5 turnovers. I came on this podcast with you, Bryce, and I said, listen, we're going to have losses like this with a rookie quarterback. They turn the ball over. What did they do? They respond. They beat Philly. We're in tears. We're crying. Giants beat the Eagles. You lose that game to Denver. I mean, you want everybody fired. I'm telling you, the quarterback still played well versus the best defense in football. I know that loss gutted me, but you know what? I looked at the positives. Last week in Philly, I was back and forth. I said, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. Coming out of this game, if I just kind of told you the story of the Giants season, we have been gutted over multiple things. And I know that I found the way to get back on the horse. This has been the toughest one.
Really?
The Cam Skattebo injury for me be above the Neighbors injury. Now, the Neighbors injury ties into this, and I'll explain that in a second. Above all of these heartbreaking losses, damn it, Bryce, the Cam Skattebo injury is one as we head into this week I still can't get over. And I have to say, this is the first real blemish to the Giants season that has soured me on looking ahead to these final, 8 or 9 weeks.
Neighbors is number 1 for me in terms of sheer talent and intrinsic value to the team. But Neighbors, and I was also at the game, so I think that plays a part in it. I saw it happen.
I want to make it clear though. I'm with you on Neighbors. The difference off the Neighbors injury was it was Dart's first start, which probably was because you could get to see Dart and Neighbors together, and they did win the game. And from that, the Cam Skattebo star was starting, but it was really born. He became the guy after the Neighbors injury. Why this has gutted me is you lost Neighbors and you could lean on Skattebo to score some touchdowns in the offense. You lose Skattebo, you've already lost Neighbors. And now I think that's why this has also killed me is this is a Giant offense that was finally scoring points. Dude, we'd scored 30 points in back-to-back weeks. Even last week, I know it ended up being garbage time. You found your way back to 20. How many podcasts did Bryce Gelman and Shaun Morash have to do after we scored 13 points, 10 points, 16 points? Those days have felt over with Jackson Dart. Now I look at this offense, Bryce, and while I think Tyrone Tracy is still going to be fine, there was just a certain knack for finding the big 3rd and long play where Skattebo was finding the end zone. I'm looking at this Niner game going, Jesus Christ, how are we scoring points?
Yeah, in terms of pure juice, the Skattebo injury obviously takes the cake. In terms of the vibes, in terms of what we might be seeing or not seeing, behind closed doors in the locker room. Clearly, the Skattebo injury takes precedence over the two. But again, I was at the game. I saw the Malik Neighbors injury with my own 2 eyes. And of course, he's the number 2 or 3 receiver in the NFL. Of course, that has a lot of value. But in terms of where the Giants were, I do agree with you with that sentiment. And Skattebo is an irreplaceable guy on the field. He's more irreplaceable on the sidelines, in the locker room, as an active player. We heard Brian Dable say this week or yesterday, maybe today, I think today, that Skattebo has been wheeling around the locker room. He's going to be there. His presence is always going to be felt, but not having it on the field, of course, is just a major. I don't want to say death blow. I don't want to say death blow to the season, but it knocks the life out of you. And clearly you kind of exhibit that right now.
Certainly knocked the life out of me. And I feel bad for Jackson Dart, but I mean, I guess that's what this season becomes in this Niners game is it was kind of always about Jackson Dart. And I think I've made that clear, but I think we unintentionally overlooked that it really became about Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo because that was like the running mate. That was the Robin to Batman. And now Batman doesn't have Robin. And he doesn't have Neighbors either. And this goes back to the Shane conversation. I hate the depth that's around this Giant offense. Maybe the fact that you were counting on a day 3 rookie that hard after your top flight wide receiver went down to be the guy to score points is another issue. Fine, whatever. It's just so much in Jackson Dart's plate to overcome. And then furthermore, as we go into this game, and this ties into the Skattebo injury. What you're being reminded of, and that we had blinders on, and what really needs to be cleaned up in the offseason is when a position gets ravaged by injuries, not many teams can overcome it. You're seeing an opponent this week of the 49ers that in many ways has overcome being ravaged by injuries, right? That's just next man up. The Eagles seemingly can overcome injuries. And look, it's a special kind of team. A lot of teams do sink when they have bad injuries. I mean, the injuries affected the Lions last year to the point they lost that Commander game in the divisional round. The Commanders' injuries, they haven't been the same team this year. Jaden Daniels out, whatever. But the Giants are on that bad end of it. These secondary injuries, the moment Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland got hurt, Denver went from being shut out to scoring 33 points. And last week versus the Eagles, in a wacky game with weird things happening and referee calls, the secondary had no answer. And then you lose Cordell Flott to a concussion. And we have no idea if he's going to make it out of protocol at the time we're taping this. I'm just going to assume no. How could you not? Art Green, who was the backup to that, he gets a hamstring injury. And the Giants are left with Deonte Banks as the number one corner. Phillips okay in the slot. And Corey Black, a rookie 7th-round pick that they had to cut, who's going to be starting. And then they're claiming guys off the practice squad from the Browns. Yeah, like, they're a mess on the back end. So asking Jackson Dart to score points without his top 2 weapons and score enough points to overcome deficiencies in the secondary, that's where a season starts to spiral for me. That's when it goes from, hey, with Jackson Dart, you should expect the unexpected and you could win or lose any single game, to, God, how much is this kid supposed to overcome to score points? And I'm down on it. Now, Javon Holland did practice on Wednesday slightly. We were told that Paulson Adebo would, quote, do some stuff, and then really did nothing but work with trainers on the sideline. Would say that's not a good sign for Paulson Adebo. There was a report out there also on Wednesday morning, although I don't think it ever got confirmed, that it's a sprained MCL for Adebo. Though
I think I just saw that. Yeah.
But then
confirmed.
Would he be doing work? I mean, that felt weird.
Know.
But maybe
I just read that. Hold on.
Maybe a better chance for Holland.
He's week to week with sprained MCL.
Who reported that, though?
Yahoo Sports.
Okay, I think
specifically. Dan Duggan.
Dan Duggan did?
Yeah.
All right, that's a little different. But that was before the practice. That's my other issue.
No, this is this was posted. Oh, okay, this morning. Before the practice.
This morning. And then Dable met the media and said he'll do some stuff. So that I don't think that was ever actually confirmed. And this is, look, maybe it does get fully confirmed by the time it happens. I think there was some mixed stuff there. Either way, I don't think it looks good for him for this week. And if it was truly a sprained MCL week to week, would he be on IR by now? I mean, he already missed a week. I would hope you'd figure that out. But so I would still think trending in the direction of after this week to come back. But either way, like, I just don't know how they make up for that. But I mean, Bryce, where are you at with the secondary here before we kind of get into the segments?
Do you even need me to discuss this?
Just yeah.
Do you even need me to tell you how I feel about this? You know exactly how I feel. If you're looking over my left shoulder, if you're watching this on YouTube, my gimmick now is if the Giants lose, I put my roommate's Deonte Banks jersey up. If they win, put my Victor Cruz jersey up. So the Deonte Banks jersey is currently hanging. I think he's one of the worst players in the NFL. He should be in the USFL. If they bring back the XFL, he should be one of the last picks in that draft. He is terrible. I mean, and it's really unfortunate because this could be a combination of the Giants not developing him correctly or him not fitting the scheme. But it was, the whole thing was made about it. He's a better man corner, but the Giants have been playing a lot of man this year, and he still sucks. So that's not an excuse anymore. He showed flashes of greatness, Shaun, his rookie year. He hasn't since. Very unfortunate, but that's the reality that we live in. He is not a good football player. No. That being your number one corner. First off, before the season, we said the Giants secondary was suspect at best. The cornerbacks weren't great. One of my biggest needs going into the season was a lockdown corner, a number one corner. Of course, Cordell Flott emerged as a really solid second cornerback, and he's much needed on this team. But with him out now too, they don't have a secondary. It's like it's uncompetitive. It's like what more could you ask for from this defensive line? They're really going to have to cover up some holes on defense and overcompensate for this. Let's just say it bluntly, pathetic secondary that the Giants have put together. And it's not necessarily their fault. And we talk about depth.
No, I mean, depth's been tested.
A lot of injuries. They're facing a lot of injuries. Like 3 of their four top, I guess 4 out of the 4 top secondary players. I guess 4 out of 5 if you count Drew Phillips. That's just not good. Not good.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, this is the NFL, man. And when you're not good in other areas, this is where being deeper on offense helps. Maybe you can get into a track meet, but nonetheless. So last week, as we get into kind of fantasy versus reality, the 49ers fell to the Houston Texans 26-15. We still don't know as of this moment whether Brock Purdy is going to play or not, or whether this Mac Jones train kind of rolls on. He did turn the ball over. This is a team where Jawan Jennings was the leading receiver last week. They've tried to kind of spread it around. George Kittle has come back. McCaffrey, who couldn't run the ball well last week, but that was a great Texan defense. Look, that's a team still with some weapons, even despite their injuries. And this is going to have to be the Christian McCaffrey show. I'm sure that they watched film on two Eagles running backs going for over 100+ yards. So I'm going to do the reality before the fantasy. I'm going to throw a little ropey dope here. The reality of the game for me is I think Jackson Dart is still going to kind of spread the ball around. This will tie into my fantasy play. And I think he's going to will this team to score points. Like, of all the Niner injuries that go around, I fear their defense a lot less. I mean, that was a struggling Texan offense that went, and they still put up 26 points. CJ Stroud threw for a couple touchdowns. And despite all the giant flaws, like Tyrone Tracy's still a good football player. The pass protection has been there for the Giants. I don't think that the offensive one's going to get destroyed in this game. And I do think they're an opportunity to move it, but it's going to come down to the defense. Now, we just mentioned the whole thing about the secondary, but Kyle Shanahan and the outside zone reads just is a bread and butter with Christian McCaffrey, and that is something the Giants get mollywopped with. I mean, just constantly. So what's the reality of the game? The reality of the game is, and this is not a good reality to be in, the Giants just throw all of their resources at mixing up blitzes, not just sitting back and rushing for, and doing that where you're making the 49ers at a point where, okay, we don't feel comfortable throwing and dropping back and getting either Purdy hurt or Mac Jones not know what's going on. So we're going to have to just challenge them with the run and then just straight up tackling. McCaffrey's going to break off a couple big ones in here, but can you keep the 49ers to like 24 points and not have, even if they churn, bend but don't break as far as these zone reads? I'm not expecting to shut down the run. I'm over it. You can't shut down the run. I'm over it. But limit what you can inside the red zone and don't allow the pass to beat you if the run is going to kill you. Like, you can't have both working like a Swiss Army knife. So I want to blitz, and then find a way to score 27 points in this game and win, which leads me to my fantasy play. I don't know what to expect from this Giant receiving core. I don't know how you could trust anybody to catch passes. And it's very easy to say, well, now it's Tyrone Tracy's time, and the Giants are going to go run the hell out of the ball. But, Bryce, I'm going to wake up on Sunday. I'm going to bet this for anytime touchdown. I'm going to bet this for 40+ yards. I'm in on the elevation of Ray McCloud in this game.
Wow. All right.
On Wednesday, after practice, it was reported Ray McCloud and Jackson Dart were the only two left on the field, running every route, doing everything possible. Now, I think that's great for both parties involved. I think it's great to try to gain chemistry and throw any extra work in. I love that on my quarterback. And I love Ray McCloud coming in after what just ended with Atlanta doing that. Ray McCloud plays a lot of schoolyard football, and he did this in Atlanta. God knows I bet him on plenty of props the last 2 years in Atlanta, especially last year. And that kind of stuff with Dart keeping his eyes downfield, I mean, that's the kind of receiver you find. And if little Jordan Humphrey is not taking this moment and owning it after that Eagle game at home, Darius Slayton still up and down. I think Ray McCloud is going to get looks in here. I mean, we saw Hyatt get scratched last week. I think Ray McCloud becomes a factor, and maybe, just maybe, if this is a fun Giant offensive day without Skattebo, it's Ray McCloud who kind of emerges out of nowhere and becomes our new kind of fan favorite, even if it's just for a week. So Ray McCloud, my fantasy play. I think he has some fun moments on Sunday, and the reality, as I pointed out, we know you're going to get gashed on the run. Can you get gashed to the point you're not giving up 30 points? And that's my fantasy versus reality price.
It's a bold move with Ray McCloud. I respect it. I respect it for a guy who's never played a game for the Giants. We'll see.
Yeah, that's got to be a first.
My fantasy pick is Jackson Dart. If you look at his emergence as a trusted, I know this isn't real life, but a trusted fantasy quarterback. He's putting together good stat lines. Shaun, in one of my leagues, he's projected over 20 points. That's, quarterback one, rated player. And I think that says a lot about his development. I think it says a lot about his ability as someone who could run the ball, get out of the pocket, and someone who could create big plays down the field. We saw that last week with Slayton, whatever happened there. But it's someone who is going to continue building on what has been a really solid season. He lost Skattebo. Okay. He's gotten the cloud now. The offensive line stays unchanged. We're talking about big impact players going out. The number one guy is still there. Andrew Thomas is still healthy. He's playing, right? Illuminor still playing. Of course, he lost his running back and his two best playmakers, but he's still got that offensive line that's still put together. And now the reality of the game, it kind of ties into the fantasy. The 49ers don't do anything exceptionally. They're an average team. They're above average in some areas, below average in other areas. Shaun, the trenches on both ends for the 49ers are not good. Objectively not good. You look at, and I mentioned this the other week. I look at, what an opposing team's Twitter is saying, and something that they were losing their minds about last week was the Texans pass rush. And they're saying that for the 49ers to be competitive going forward, they need to figure that out. And unfortunately for them, they're now going to go up against one of the best pass rushes in the league in the Giants, a better pass rush than the Texans. I don't think that's crazy to say. So
Texans got a pretty freaking good pass rush, but yes, I get you.
They do, but the Giants, I think the Giants are better. When you look at this offensive front for the 49ers, it's not good. It's not good. The Giants won win this game. I have to agree with you. You can't just send 4 men. You got to send 5. You got to send 6 every once in a while. You got to clog the box, and you just got to make sure that Christian McCaffrey doesn't beat you. Down the field, fine. Whether it's Purdy, and Purdy did practice today. He was limited. I saw a few clips. Shaun, he looked good. So I'd assume that he's going to play. Who knows? Maybe by the time this is released, we'll know more. I'm sure we will. So either way, doesn't matter if it's Purdy, doesn't matter if it's Mac Jones. Mac Jones got crushed last week, Shaun. He got crushed. I believe he had 37 dropbacks. He was pressured. And let me just check this. Yes, 19 pressures on 37 dropbacks. This is a Texans front that is really solid. Yes, the Giants can match that and then some. So I think you just got to get to the quarterback. As I said earlier, you've got to make the secondary's job as easy as possible. If they are going to be relied upon to win this game, the Giants will lose. And they will lose by a lot. Down the field, if the 49ers are beating the Giants, so be it. You live by the, I guess, if you live by the pass rush, you die by the pass rush. So, if they beat the secondary, it is what it is. But you've got to make it as low of a likelihood as possible that they do, in fact, beat the Giants. The reality of the game is they get to the quarterback, they fluster Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. It was a recipe for success last week for the Texans, a team that isn't very good. So it could be a recipe for success for the Giants this week, Shaun. And you want to do it? You want to get into it for the first time? All
right. For the first ever time on One Giant Step, a new segment.
I think we did this a couple of years ago when I originally joined this podcast. If you've been a long enough listener, let us know. I'm almost positive I did something along the lines of this.
Well, look.
I don't think to this extent, but all right, here we go.
Bryce is right. Here we go, Bryce.
We need imaging for this. We need music. We gotta get
that sounds like a you issue as the producer of this podcast.
If we ever get picked back up by Audacy, yes, we'll figure that out. We can cross that bridge when we get there. All right. So Bryce is right. Segment each week and weekend. We're going to talk about it after. We're going to recap it. But it's a bold prediction for the upcoming game. It's not exactly very far-fetched, but it's also not something that we're likely going to see. So for this week, I look at what happened with Dexter Lawrence and Carl Banks, and I look what everyone's been saying about Abdul Carter. Shaun, my Bryce is right of the week. Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence are finally going to have their first solo sacks of the week. Each of them. Not a combined sack, and they both get to 1. Each of them will have their own individual sack. The 49ers have allowed 24 sacks this year, which I believe is 3 games. I might have that wrong. I had 16 sacks allowed in 8 weeks, so 2 sacks a game. Either way, if you look at last week, they got absolutely crushed. That offensive line, as I just said, 37 dropbacks for Mac Jones, 19 pressures. You look at the Giants offensive, you look at the Giants defensive line. Dexter Lawrence is playing for a lot. He's got a lot to prove. Whether the Carl Banks comment is going to light a fire under his ass, it remains to be seen. I'd like to think it will. But Abdul Carter is also playing for something here as well, right? There's a lot of discourse around Abdul Carter on Twitter. And not to say that these guys are picking that up, but there's a lot of discourse surrounding Abdul Carter and saying that he's not a good football player because of what's showing up in the stat sheet. And it doesn't matter, but it's week 8 now. Get a sack. right? Like it's inevitable. It's inevitable at this point. And I think him and Dexter Lawrence get it done the same week against a really questionable offensive line. So that's my bold prediction of the week. And we'll obviously recap that on Sunday or Monday morning to see if it, came true. The prophecy was fulfilled or not.
I'm happy it was that. I thought you were going to go with the Niners were the ones that started the whole MetLife turf sucks thing. They're going to have 6 injuries and McCaffrey doesn't survive the game. And but that's where we're going with Bryce.
Let me just say, if this season continues the way it's going, the Giants still have 2 wins by weeks 15 and 16. We're going to start getting pretty wild with the Bryce Is Right takes. Okay. For now, let's keep it somewhat realistic.
Niners 2.5-point favorites, juice to the Niners side at -120. Seems like a low spread based on the fact that the Giants have now lost basically all of their touchdowns on the year. So it leads to our game pick. Bryce, we have updated records on that?
Yes, I'm 3-5 and you are 3-5 now. So
okay, you had the blowout win?
Yes, you took the Giants, I took the Eagles. So we're tied.
Okay. Kind of cut and dry here. I don't think the Giants are going to get blown out in the game. I don't. I know Bryce felt that last week. He was right. For the reasons Bryce mentioned, I do think the Giants pass rush is going to find moments. I have a hard time thinking the Giants win the game with just the idea of McCaffrey attacking our boundaries there and knowing that forget the pass defense with Tay Banks and Corey Black, the run defense that's going to have to exist too. I don't trust Shane Bowen to get ultra creative. And I think Kyle Shanahan playing with Shane Bowen there is going to be just a mismatched nightmare as far as coaching stuff goes. But the Jackson Dart effect, I mentioned Ray McLeod. I think he's going to find a way to will the Giants into this thing. I'm taking the Niners to cover the 2.5 with a 27-24 heartbreaking victory for Big Blue on Sunday.
All right. So it's kind of a split. I mean, I predicted a blowout last week. This isn't necessarily a blowout, but you got the Giants losing the game and you've got the 49ers covering the spread. I've got the opposite, Shaun. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I mean, I'll give you a reason why.
Okay.
I sense good vibes. I sense a resiliency amongst Jackson Dart, amongst the offense. The defense, on the other hand, that's more of a question mark. But the offense, even without Skattebo, even without Malik Neighbors now for a few weeks, they've got something to prove. Jackson Dart is playing with the chip on his shoulder. His best friend, his buddy, is gone for the rest of the season. They're going to be playing for Skattebo. They're win for Skattebo. He's going to be on the sideline in a wheelchair. Win for Skattebo. That's going to be the calling card for this team for this game. So I have the Giants winning this game. I have them winning it.
Wow.
Let's see. I gotta pick. Yeah, 21-18.
That was the same score as the Charger game.
Yes, it was. And for the life of me, I'm not going to say I can't see the Giants losing this game. Of course I can. But in terms of how bad the 49ers offensive line was last week, it gives me hope that this Giants defensive front could do some damage and win this game. And as long as they, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to, Shane Bowen versus Kyle Shanahan. That's like, stuff nightmares, right? Like that could go a million different wrong ways. I just have a feeling the Giants are going to pull this one out, Shaun.
I hope you're right. And I want to be clear because I'm not hypocritical. I don't know if I mentioned it here, if I mentioned it on Talking Giants or on Evan and Tiki, but I said a couple weeks ago when I was looking ahead, I thought that this game was going to be one of the wins on the Giants schedule as of a couple weeks ago. What's flipped me on that is the injuries, man. Like no Flott, no Adebo, maybe no Hunt. We'll see. No Skattebo.
Keep in mind the 49ers have a banged up
I know they do.
Line as well.
I know they do, but they're so much better at surviving these injuries. It just kind of feels like last week in Philly and losing Skattebo and still no Adebo, which has been a really, really big deal for this team. You're going to hear that name a million times, and the Flott now too. It just kind of feels like the second half of Philly, and I think it carries over here, a little bit of a let go of the rope moment for the Giant roster that's left. Now, does that mean they can't, breathe and go figure it out versus the Bears if maybe they get those guys back or something? Obviously not Skattebo next week and, find their way versus maybe a bad Minnesota team and a bad Raider team at the end of the year to scrounge up 5 wins. Like, of course, I don't think the Giants have won their last game on the year, but I hate this coaching matchup when it comes to the Giants just losing guys. The Niners are far more equipped, but I hope Bryce is on the right end of that. I will be at MetLife Stadium. I'm going to be sitting somewhere in the upper tank, 50-yard line. These are like the Evan Roberts special seats. I don't know yet. If I'm going to walk the lot, I think I'm going to go to the L lot. I've been invited to a couple whatever. Shoot me a tweet. You want me to stop by a tailgate? Maybe I find time to do that because I'm literally driving to this game solo on Sunday. I'm not doing like
Prayers.
my usual tailgate. What?
Thoughts and prayers
Thoughts and prayers.
for as long as your day is going to be on Sunday.
Yeah, and I
That's
have
gonna be
no
big.
idea when I'll get back to the home to figure this out to record Bryce. But this is why you download, subscribe. Me and Bryce will be back. We'll hammer out a one giant step to recap at some point, either Sunday night, Monday morning. We'll figure it out. But I will be in the building. Hopefully, Bryce is right, and Bryce can bellyache and bitch and moan as the Knicks lose to the Nets after that Giants
good
game
luck.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, at Bryce Gelman on Twitter and X, at Shaun Morash on Twitter and X. Take care, everyone.